Spellbinders Week at Paper Crafters Library, and every day during the week of June 18th to June 22nd, 2012, we'll be sharing a variety of project ideas featuring different Spellbinders die template collections. Every day this week we'll be giving away a different Spellbinders die template generously donated by Spellbinders, and we'll share more details on how you can enter to win at the end of this video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this Petal Soft High card, which features Spellbinders edge abilities, which were used to create the fun floral border you see on the card. To create my floral border, I'm starting with a piece of Basil's Petal Soft cardstock that's been cut to 1.5 inches high by 3 7/8 of an inch wide. And I'm going to be die cutting my border using my Spellbinders Edge Ability Classic Triple Scallop. Now the Classic Edge Abilities come with 3 pieces in the set. There's a piece that cuts the edge, and then there's a couple of pieces that are called inserts, and they're what give you the pattern. Now you can use them in combination, the inserts in combination with the edge, or you can use the inserts and the edge alone. So the insert that I'm using is the one called Insert B, and as you can see, it's shaped in a half flower. Now I am going to be die cutting this twice, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to orient this in order to be able to create the full flower that you saw in the border of the card. So the first thing that I need to do is to align this, and just to help me make sure I align it nice and straight, I'm positioning my cardstock onto my grid paper. Now when you look at your die, you're going to see that there is a flat, completely flat surface, and then there's one that has some raised edges. So it's the raised edges side down that I want to put on my card, or on my cardstock piece. So I want to position it so that I get pretty much like 4 complete flowers on here. So I'm aligning 4 of these scallop pieces, or well, whatever you want to call the shape, onto my cardstock piece, and I'm positioning, I'm trying to make sure there's an even amount, because it doesn't give you 4 sort of perfect. I'm making sure there's an even amount hanging over the left and right edges. And then the center portion, or the bottom, sorry, of the die is a little bit below the center of the center line of this cardstock piece. Now to hold it in place and make sure it doesn't shift as I cut it, I'm going to be using some of my Scotch removable tape, and I'm putting a couple of pieces on there just to make sure it's really held in place. And then I'm going to take this border and I'm going to place it on top of my cutting plate and sandwich my base plate on top, and then run this through my Grand Caliber. Now if you don't own a Spellbinders Grand Caliber, you can also die cut your nest abilities with other die cut machines, for example the Big Shot or the Cuttlebug, and we have videos in the Paper Crafters Library that shows you the correct sandwiches for die cutting your nest abilities or other Spellbinders dies in those machines. So I'm back from the Grand Caliber, and I've run this through once. I only am doing it with the cutting plate, not the embossing plate. And when I flip it over, you can see what this looks like. You can see that I've got my pattern die cut along one side. So now I'm going to very carefully remove my insert die from the cardstock and just set my cutting plate aside for a moment, put this onto my grid paper, and then I'm going to take my die. Now actually before I put it back on there, I just do want to remove these little pink cardstock remnants that are in here. So I'm just going to do that, and I'll be right back. So now the reason you want to remove all those little cardstock pieces that were stuck in there is that if you get a buildup of those and there's too many in there, your die's not going to cut properly. So always make sure you clean your die before you use it again. So I'm now going to take my die, just going to take this tape off my fingers for a minute. I'm going to take my die and I'm going to align it again, and I'm aligning the bottom edge of the die with just above the top edge of these little kind of oval shaped holes that were die cut in there. So not quite directly on top, but pretty close, or not quite touching rather, but pretty close. And then I'm going to take my actually I'm going to lower it just a little bit more so that they are pretty much touching the top edge, or top edge of the opening. And I'm going to take my tape and secure my die in place once more. and then create my sandwich again and run it through my Spellbinder's Grand Caliber one more time. So I'm back from the Grand Caliber. I've run it through the second time. So now I'm going to very carefully remove my die, and you can see I have this really cool flower shape that's been die cut out of my cardstock strip. So the next thing, I'm just going to clean my die, put it away, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the card. So my next step in creating this card is to take my border that I created and mat it onto a piece of pattern paper. Now this pattern paper comes from the Amy Tangerine Sketchbook Collection by American Crafts, and I've cut it to 2 inches by 3 7/8 of an inch. So I'm going to use my double-sided adhesive, and I'm just going to place it on the back of my border piece. And then I'm going to center and stick this piece onto my patterned paper piece, leaving an even border above and below. Oops. Now, so there you can see what that looks like. So here I've got some black rhinestones from Kaiser Craft, and I'm going to take the largest of them. There's 3 different sizes, and I'm going to place one in the center of each of my flowers. And that makes it just look more like a flower than a series of die cut holes. Like so. So then, just to add a little bit of texture and to make the border of my piece look a little bit more finished, I'm going to be adding a little bit of my velvet ribbon from May Arts. It's 1/8 of an inch. First though, I just noticed that this looks crooked, so I'm going to adjust this piece and I will be right back. So I've straightened out the border and I'm now ready to stick on my velvet ribbon. So for that I'm going to be using some of my Beacon Fabri-Tac adhesive, which is a fantastic adhesive for paper and fabrics, and I've cut the tip quite fine on this so that I don't get too much of this gushing out. I just want a very thin line of adhesive along the edge because my ribbon is so narrow. You want to make sure that you don't put too much of this adhesive. So I'm just squeezing and applying all down the length of that, and then taking my ribbon. Now when I attach my ribbon, I'm making it, extending the edge a little bit, and then I can clean up the edge with my scissors. And I'm just going to flip this upside down so I can better see if it's straight. Now the nice thing, because you're working with a liquid adhesive, is that you do have a few seconds, maybe up to a minute, before it completely sets, so that you can adjust the positioning of your ribbon if you need to. So I'm going to trim the ends of this, and then I'm going to do the same thing along the bottom. So I finished the other side of my ribbon border on this die cut piece, and I've assembled the remaining elements to my card. I have 2 pink buttons that I've threaded with some black jute from May Arts. I have a patterned paper piece that I cut from an Amy Tangerine Sketchbook Collection piece of patterned paper, and it already had this pattern on it, so I integrated it. I cut it so that it would be integrated into my card design. Now I'm going to take this piece is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and I'm using my double-sided adhesive to center and stick it onto a piece of black cardstock that's 4 inches by 5 1/4 of an inch. So as you can see, when I layer it on there, it just leaves a nice thin border. I'm then going to take this piece and I'm going to center and stick it onto my card front. Now my card front was created out of a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of taffy cardstock from American Crafts, and I scored it at 5 1/2 inches and then folded it in half to create my card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So as you can see, I now have all my layers matted, so I'm going to stick my border on, and for that I'm just using my double-sided adhesive. And I want to stick it up or stick it so that it's about a 1/4 inch, or maybe not quite a 1/4 inch, up from the bottom edge of my pattern paper piece, because I still want lots of this pattern to show. So then for my greeting, I'm going to be using these glittered chipboard letter stickers from the American Crafts. They're one of their thickers line, and I'm just spelling out the word hi. So I'm taking my letter, my I, which I always start with the end of the greeting first, and I'm overlapping it on top of the pink pattern paper piece, so that it looks like it's resting on my ribbon border. And then beside it, I'm going to place the H for the hi. So all that's left now is to stick my 2 buttons on. And for those, I'm going to be using some mini glue dots, just pressing my button right to the mini glue dot. And the only thing I'm paying attention to when I stick these onto my card is that I want the X shape that's created from the twine to be oriented in the same direction. So looking basically like it's going straight up and down, like so. And there you can see our card is now finished. So as we mentioned at the beginning of this video, every day this week we're giving away a different die template generously donated by Spellbinders. One winner will be randomly chosen from the comments left on each day's post. All 5 winners will be announced on Friday, June the 22nd, 2012 at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To enter to win today's giveaway, visit the Paper Crafters Library blog and leave a comment in the post you see here. If you're watching this video from somewhere other than our blog, you'll find a direct link to this post in the video description section. While you're there, we invite you to check out the benefits of becoming a Paper Crafters Library member by clicking on the Benefits of Membership link at the top of our blog. Now, the winner will be announced on Friday, June 22nd at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to visit our blog every day this week for more great projects using Spellbinders die templates and for more opportunities to win, as each day Spellbinders will be giving away one of the dies we used in that day's projects. See you on the blog!